3 days before our son's due date, I stood in the nursery holding a tiny blue blanket. Claire smiled behind me. I still can't believe we're finally here. I laughed softly. I've been counting the days for months. She walked over and placed my hand against her stomach. He kicked again. Our little guy already wants attention. She grinned, just like his father. I'll happily accept that. She looked around the nursery. The walls were painted soft blue. A wooden crib stood beside the window. Stuffed animals filled the shelves. Everything was ready. She leaned her head against my shoulder. I promise you something. What? When labor starts, nothing will pull me away. You mean that? She nodded. I'll be right beside you until our son is born. I kissed her forehead. I don't need anything else. She whispered, we're going to be a family. Those words settled deep inside my heart. For the first time in years, I believed my future was exactly where it belonged. 2 mornings later, I woke to Claire shaking my shoulder. Ethan. I opened my eyes immediately. What happened? I think it's time. My heart nearly stopped. The contractions? She nodded, breathing carefully. They're getting stronger. I jumped out of bed. Okay. Hospital bag. I already packed it. Car keys. Kitchen counter. You really planned everything. She smiled despite the pain. I had months. While I grabbed our bags, her phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the screen. Her expression changed instantly. I frowned. Who is it? She hesitated. It's Lucas. My smile disappeared. He knows you're in labor? I don't know why he's calling. She answered anyway. Lucas? I watched every bit of color drain from her face. What? She listened silently. No, calm down. She closed her eyes. I'm coming. Before I could ask another question, she lowered the phone slowly. I felt something inside me tighten. Claire. What happened? Claire lowered her eyes before answering. Lucas says he's alone. I stared at her. So, he had a severe panic attack. I took a slow breath. We're having our baby today. I know. He can call an ambulance. He says he can't breathe. Then call 911. He begged me to come. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Claire, our son is coming. She rubbed her forehead. I know exactly what today means. Then why are we still standing here? She looked at me with guilty eyes. If he's telling the truth, I can't ignore him. I stepped closer. You promised me. I remember. You said nothing would pull you away. She swallowed hard. A human life matters more than one ceremony. I shook my head. This isn't a ceremony anymore. She looked toward the front door. It's an emergency. It's our child. Silence filled the room. Another contraction made her grip the table. I reached for her hand. Please. She didn't answer. I need you. I'll come back as soon as I can. I felt my chest tighten. You could miss his birth. I won't. You can't know that. She looked away. I have to go. I stood between her and the door. Claire, don't make this choice. Tears filled her eyes. I don't want to hurt you. Then stay. She gently moved past me. I'm sorry. I followed her outside. The morning air felt strangely cold. She unlocked her car. I grabbed the door before she could close it. Please. She looked at me one last time. I'll be back before you know it. The engine started. I stood frozen as her car disappeared down the street. For several seconds, I couldn't move. Then another sharp cry escaped my wife through the open window she had forgotten to close before driving away. My heart dropped. She had left while still in labor. I whispered to myself, please let this end before it's too late. I forced myself into my car and drove toward the hospital with shaking hands. Every traffic light felt endless. I kept calling Claire. She never answered. Another contraction hit while she was still somewhere across the city, and I prayed she had at least stopped somewhere safe. When I reached the maternity entrance, 2 nurses hurried outside with a wheelchair. One of them looked at me. Where's your wife? She's on her way. The nurse frowned. She's in active labor. I know. When will she arrive? I lowered my head. I don't know. Minutes later, my phone rang. It was Claire. I answered immediately. Where are you? I'm still with Lucas. Claire, they're asking for you. I know. Our son is coming now. I'm trying. No, You're staying." She went quiet. "I couldn't leave him alone." "You already left us alone." "Ethan, I needed my wife." "I'll explain everything." "You can explain later." The line went silent before the call ended. Hours passed inside the delivery ward. Doctors and nurses worked with calm voices while I held Claire's place beside the bed. Finally, one powerful cry filled the room. A nurse smiled. "Congratulations." I looked down as she placed my tiny son into my arms. His eyes stayed closed. His fingers wrapped around mine. I whispered through tears, "I know." The room should have been filled with joy. Instead, one chair beside me remained empty. Not long afterward, my parents hurried inside. My mother looked around. "Where's Claire?" I forced a weak smile. "She had an emergency." My father frowned. "She missed this?" I know she had a reason. Neither of them argued. My mother kissed Noah's forehead while my father quietly rested his hand on my shoulder. Night slowly covered the hospital windows. After everyone left, I sat alone beside my sleeping son. I watched his tiny chest rise and fall. I whispered into the silence, "Why does the happiest day of my life feel like the loneliest?" 3 days passed after Noah was born. Claire called every morning, every afternoon, every night. Most of the time, I answered because I wanted to believe there was still an explanation that could save our family. Her voice sounded exhausted. "Ethan, please listen." "I'm listening." "I'm so sorry." "You've said that before." "I know." "Then tell me something different." She took a slow breath. "Lucas really needed help." I closed my eyes. "You missed your son's birth." "I never wanted that." "But you did." He called me crying. "So?" "He said he couldn't breathe. There are ambulances for that." He begged me not to leave him. I looked down at Noah sleeping peacefully in my arms. "Our son couldn't beg you." Silence filled the phone. She whispered, "Don't say that. It's true. I thought I could help Lucas and still make it back." "You didn't." "I know. You weren't here when Noah opened his eyes." A quiet sob escaped her. I hate myself for that. I wanted to stay angry. Instead, I heard pain in her voice. "I believe you regret it." "I do. I just don't understand your choice. I've known Lucas since college." "I know. I couldn't ignore someone asking for help. And you ignored your own family." She cried harder. "I'll spend the rest of my life making this right." I looked toward the nursery. The tiny mobile slowly turned above Noah's crib. "I don't know if that's possible. Please don't give up on us." "I haven't." "Then come home." "I will." "When?" "Soon." The call ended. I stood there staring at my silent phone. Part of me still wanted to believe my wife had simply made the worst decision of her life instead of the cruelest one. That hope was the only thing keeping my heart together. I had no idea it was about to disappear forever. The following afternoon, my phone buzzed while I was feeding Noah. The screen showed Grace Carter. Grace worked as a senior hospital administrator. She had quietly checked on Noah every day since his birth. I answered. "Hi, Grace. Are you alone?" "Yes. I need to show you something." Her serious voice made my stomach tighten. "What is it?" "It's easier if you come to my office." "I'll be there." An hour later, Noah slept peacefully in his carrier beside my chair. Grace closed her office door. "Ethan, I struggled with this." "What happened?" She placed a folder on her desk. "These are internal security records." I frowned. "I don't understand." "They involve Lucas." She slowly opened the folder. The emergency department admitted him that morning. "I know. He wasn't in critical condition." My heart began pounding. "What are you saying?" She turned one page toward me. The attending physician treated his panic attack. I stared at the report. He was stable. Grace nodded. He was discharged at 10:18 a.m. I checked the time again. Claire had left our house almost 2 hours later. I looked up. "That's impossible." I verified it twice. "Maybe he became sick again." Grace hesitated. "I thought that too." She opened another file. "This is why I asked you here." She pressed a key on her computer. A security video appeared on the monitor. The timestamp matched the day Noah was born. Lucas walked calmly through the hospital lobby. No wheelchair. No oxygen. No medical staff. He looked completely healthy. I whispered, "No." Grace remained silent. The video continued. Lucas stepped outside. Several minutes later, Claire's car pulled into the parking lot. She rushed toward him. Instead of collapsing into her arms, he smiled. He hugged her tightly. They stood there talking. Neither of them looked frightened. Neither of them looked like they had just survived an emergency. I felt my hands begin to shake. Grace quietly reached for the remote. There is one more recording. I suddenly wasn't sure I wanted to see it. Grace pressed the play button. The screen changed to another security camera. The timestamp read 6:47 p.m. I froze. Lucas and Claire walked into an upscale restaurant across from the hospital. Neither of them looked worried. Neither of them looked exhausted. A waiter welcomed them inside. Several minutes later, another camera showed them laughing over dinner. Lucas reached across the table. Claire smiled. I watched her smile. It was the same smile I had waited to see while holding our newborn son. Instead, she had given it to someone else. My chest felt hollow. I whispered. She said she couldn't leave him. Grace lowered her eyes. I'm sorry. I couldn't speak. Every excuse I had protected shattered in front of me. She had not rushed back to meet Noah. She had stayed. She had chosen to stay. I closed the laptop. I don't need to see any more. Grace nodded quietly. I thought you deserved the truth. You were right. When I arrived home, my father, Richard, sat beside Noah's crib. My mother, Olivia, gently rocked him to sleep. My father looked at me. You found your answer? I slowly nodded. He didn't ask for details. Instead, he said, Son, compassion is honorable. It is, but dignity matters more than excuses. I lowered my head. I kept defending her. You defended the woman you believed she was. His words settled heavily inside me. My mother kissed Noah's forehead. He deserves peace. So do you. That night, I stood beside my son's crib for a long time. Claire called again. The phone kept ringing. I looked at her name. For the first time, I didn't answer. I wasn't waiting for another explanation anymore. I wasn't trying to repair what only one person had broken. As Noah slept peacefully beside me, I finally accepted the truth I had been afraid to face. I had become a father, but I no longer knew whether I was still a husband. For days passed before Claire finally came home. I heard her keys slide into the front door. Noah slept peacefully in my arms while I slowly warmed his bottle. The house felt strangely quiet. Claire stepped inside, carrying an overnight bag. Her eyes immediately filled with tears. Ethan. I looked up. You're home. She rushed toward me. I've been calling you. I know. You stopped answering. I needed silence. She glanced at Noah. My baby. Our baby. She reached out to hold him. I gently stepped back. He's sleeping. Fresh tears rolled down her face. I missed so much. You missed everything. She lowered her head. I deserve that. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Finally, she whispered, Can we talk? We are talking. I mean, really talk. I nodded toward the kitchen. There are papers waiting. She looked confused. What papers? You'll see. I carried Noah into the nursery. After laying him carefully inside his crib, I returned to the kitchen. Claire stood frozen beside the table. Her hands trembled. She stared at the envelope. Then she slowly opened it. The first page was visible immediately. Petition for dissolution of marriage. She looked at me as if she had forgotten how to breathe. No. Her voice barely existed. No. I remained calm. You've already decided? I finally accepted reality. She shook her head violently. You can't mean this. I do. Ethan, please. You should read everything. She flipped through the pages with shaking hands. Then she covered her mouth. Divorce? Yes. You never even asked me to explain. I asked. She looked confused. When? The day Noah was born. Her shoulders collapsed. I know I made a terrible mistake. I agree. It was one mistake. I met her eyes without raising my voice. It was the biggest day of our son's life. And you chose to spend it somewhere else. Claire wiped her eyes with trembling hands. I never chose Lucas over Noah. I answered quietly. Your actions did. I thought I had time. You thought wrong. I wanted to help someone. You abandoned your own family. She shook her head. I never stopped loving you. I looked directly at her. Love isn't measured by promises. What is it measured by? Choices. She covered her face. I hate myself. I believe that. Then why can't we fix this? Because regret doesn't erase reality. She stepped closer. I'll quit my job. That's not the problem. I'll cut Lucas out forever. That should have happened years ago. I'll spend every day making this right. I sighed softly. You can't relive Noah's birth. Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. I know. You can't give him back the mother he waited for. I know. You can't give me back the husband who believed he'd always come second to no one. She began crying harder. I never wanted you to feel that way. But I did. The room fell silent. A gentle knock broke the silence. My father walked inside. Richard glanced at Claire. Then he looked at me. I hope I'm not interrupting. No. Claire quickly wiped her face. I'm sorry you had to see this. He answered calmly. I wish none of us had. She turned toward him. Mr. Brooks, please tell Ethan people make mistakes. He nodded once. They do. Then help him forgive me. I already forgive you. Hope appeared in her eyes. But forgiveness and trust are different things. Her shoulders slowly dropped. Richard continued quietly. My son isn't acting out of anger. I'm not. He's protecting the peace your child deserves. Claire looked back at me. So you've already decided. I answered honestly. I made my decision the night Noah was born. She clutched the divorce papers tightly. I still believe we can save our marriage. I shook my head gently. I don't believe our marriage survived that day. The words hurt me as much as they hurt her. But they were finally true. Claire stood motionless, clutching the papers against her chest. I can't sign them. I looked at her calmly. I'm not asking you to decide today. I'm asking you not to end us. I slowly pulled out a chair. Sit down. She obeyed without speaking. I folded my hands on the table. I've asked myself the same question every night. What question? Whether one mistake should destroy a marriage. She nodded hopefully, and I realized it wasn't one mistake. Her face fell again. You answered Lucas. Yes. You drove away while you were in labor. She whispered, yes. You missed Noah's birth. A tear slipped down her cheek. Yes. You stayed for dinner after the emergency was over. She closed her eyes. Yes. I took a slow breath. None of those were accidents. She covered her mouth. I was selfish. You kept choosing. I know. When you left that morning, our marriage didn't end because you loved someone else. She stared at me. It ended because you made another man your first responsibility when your husband and your newborn son needed you most. She broke into quiet sobs. I'll regret that forever. I believe you will. She stood and walked toward Noah's nursery. She stopped outside the door without going inside. I don't deserve to wake him. I quietly answered, not tonight. She nodded. After several silent seconds, she picked up the envelope again. I can't sign these today. You don't have to. She looked at me one final time. I still love you. I felt my heart ache, but my voice remained steady. I hope one day you find peace, Claire. And you? I glanced toward Noah's room. I already know where mine is. She lowered her head. Without another word, she opened the front door. I watched her walk into the cold evening carrying the unsigned divorce papers. The door closed softly behind her. For the first time since Noah was born, the house felt painfully quiet. But beneath the silence, I also felt something I had almost forgotten. I finally felt free. 2 weeks passed after Claire left my house carrying the unsigned divorce papers. I stopped checking my phone every few minutes. Instead, every morning began with Noah's tiny smile. I lifted him from his crib. Good morning, buddy. He reached toward my face. I laughed. You're getting stronger every day. My mother smiled from the kitchen. He looks just like you. I hope he grows up kinder. She gently touched Noah's hand. He already has someone worth becoming. Those quiet mornings slowly stitched together pieces of my broken heart. I focused on bottles, diapers, doctor appointments, late-night lullabies. For the first time in months, my life moved forward instead of backward. One afternoon, my phone rang. The screen showed Claire. I answered calmly. Hello. Ethan. Her voice sounded anxious. "We need to talk." "What about?" "It's Lucas." I stayed silent. "He says you created fake evidence." I almost laughed. "He says I edited the videos." "Yes." "He says you bribed hospital staff." "Do you believe him?" She hesitated. I don't know what to believe anymore." "You already have the truth. He keeps saying you're trying to take Noah away from me." I looked toward my son sleeping beside me. "I've never once stopped you from loving your son." "He says you'll use the divorce to get full custody." "I haven't even discussed custody with you." Another long silence followed. She whispered, "I feel like I'm losing everything." I answered honestly, "That started long before I filed those papers." Before she could respond, another call interrupted mine. An unknown number appeared. "I have another call." "Ethan, I'll speak with you later." I answered the second line. "This is Ethan Brooks." A calm male voice replied, "Mr. Brooks, my name is Detective Marcus Hill with the Boston Financial Crimes Division." My grip tightened around the phone. "How can I help you?" "We're investigating Lucas Reed." I stood slowly. "What kind of investigation?" "I believe you possess information that may help expose a much larger pattern of fraud." The next morning, I arrived at Detective Hill's office carrying every message, email, and voicemail Lucas had ever sent me. He welcomed me with a firm handshake. "Thank you for coming. I want the truth." "So do we." He opened a thick case file. "This investigation didn't begin with your family." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "We've received complaints from several people over the last 3 years." "Complaints about Lucas?" "Yes." He slid photographs across the table. Each picture showed Lucas with different people, different cities, different dates. He convinced every one of them he was facing a medical emergency. I stared silently. He claimed panic attacks. Sometimes cancer scares. Sometimes heart problems. Sometimes. I looked up. They all believed him. They cared about him. He nodded toward another document. "Many transferred money." "How much?" "Thousands of dollars." I slowly exhaled. "He never asked me for money. He wanted something else from you." "My wife." Detective Hill nodded. "We believe emotional manipulation was his preferred method whenever money wasn't the primary goal." Everything suddenly made sense. Every emergency, every desperate phone call, every crisis that somehow happened whenever Claire tried moving on. I rubbed my forehead. She thought she was saving him. That's exactly what he wanted. My phone vibrated. "Claire." I answered. "Ethan, I'm busy. I just argued with Lucas." I stayed quiet. "He keeps saying everyone is lying." "What do you think?" I asked him to show me medical records. And he got angry. "What else?" He refused. I closed my eyes. "Claire." "Yes." Someone with nothing to hide doesn't panic when asked for proof. Her breathing became uneven. "I don't know who he is anymore." I answered softly. "I don't think you ever did." After the call ended, Detective Hill handed me another folder. "We obtained bank records this morning." I opened the first page. Several large deposits appeared beside Lucas's name. The dates matched nearly every emergency he had ever reported. For the first time, I realized his lies had never been spontaneous. They had always been part of the same carefully planned game. 3 days later, Detective Hill called again. "Mr. Brooks, we executed search warrants this morning." "What did you find?" "Enough evidence to move forward." I remained silent. "We recovered fabricated medical documents, fake prescriptions, and multiple prepaid phones." "So it was all planned?" "Yes." He paused. "We also located messages showing Lucas coached people to lie for him." I thanked him before ending the call. That afternoon, Claire appeared outside my house. She looked exhausted. Dark circles surrounded her eyes. I stepped onto the porch. "Why are you here?" She held out her phone. "I saw everything." "The investigation?" She nodded. "The detective questioned me this morning, and they showed me statements from other victims." She struggled to breathe. "I wasn't the only person." "No." He told the same stories to everyone. "Yes." She covered her face. I kept defending him. "You believed someone you trusted. I accused you of manipulating the evidence." "You did." "I'm so ashamed." I looked at her quietly. "Shame won't change what happened." I know. She lowered her hands. I finally understand. What? I wasn't saving someone. No. I was helping someone destroy other people's lives. I slowly nodded. For several moments, neither of us spoke. Finally, she whispered, "Do you hate me?" I answered honestly, "No, you don't." I hate what happened. Tears filled her eyes again. I wish I could undo everything. I believe you. She looked surprised. You do? Yes. But I also know some choices cannot be undone. She accepted those words without arguing. As she walked back toward her car, I watched Noah laughing through the living room window. His innocent smile reminded me why I had survived the hardest season of my life. I no longer wanted revenge. Reality had already exposed every lie Lucas built. His own deception had destroyed him far more completely than my anger ever could. I turned away from the driveway and walked back inside. My son reached both hands toward me. I picked him up and smiled. For the first time since Claire walked out before his birth, I understood something that finally brought me peace. The greatest victory was never watching Lucas fall. It was refusing to fall with him. Nearly 6 months passed after Detective Hill exposed Lucas's lies. Life slowly found a new rhythm. Every morning began with Noah laughing from his crib. Every evening ended with me reading stories until he fell asleep against my shoulder. The silence that once felt unbearable had become peaceful. One Saturday afternoon, the doorbell rang. I opened the front door. Claire stood there. She looked thinner. Her confident smile had disappeared. In one hand, she held Noah's favorite stuffed elephant. In the other rested the wedding ring she had stopped wearing months earlier. She spoke quietly. "May I come in?" I studied her face before stepping aside. "Come in." She entered slowly, looking around the house. So much has changed. Some things had to. Her eyes landed on Noah playing on the living room rug. She froze. "My little boy." Noah looked up curiously. He smiled without recognizing her. Claire covered her mouth. "He doesn't know me," I answered honestly. "He was too young to remember." A tear slipped down her cheek. "I missed everything." She carefully knelt beside him. "Hi, Noah." He happily handed her a wooden toy block. She accepted it with trembling hands. "Thank you." Watching them together awakened memories I had buried. I remembered decorating the nursery, choosing baby names, dreaming about raising him together. For one painful moment, I could almost see the family we had planned. Claire gently hugged the stuffed elephant. "I bought this before he was born. I remember." I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. She slowly placed it beside Noah. He hugged it immediately. Claire began crying. "He still likes elephants." I nodded. "They're his favorite." She looked at me through tear-filled eyes. "Ethan, I've come to tell you everything." I quietly pulled out a chair. "Then sit down." She obeyed silently, still watching Noah play, as if trying to memorize every second she had already lost forever. Claire folded her hands tightly. "I lost everything." I remained silent. Lucas disappeared after the investigation. "I heard." "My law firm asked me to resign." I nodded once. I expected that. "My friend stopped answering my calls." She looked down at the wedding ring. "I don't blame them." I waited. She took a deep breath. I spent months asking myself why my life fell apart. And I kept blaming Lucas. She wiped another tear away. Then I realized every choice was mine. I quietly answered, "Yes." "No one forced me to leave you." "No." "No one forced me to miss Noah's birth." "No." "No one forced me to stay for dinner." I shook my head. "You chose." She closed her eyes. "I know." She slowly placed the wedding ring on the table. "I don't deserve to wear this anymore." The sight of it tightened my chest. I remembered the day I slipped that ring onto her finger. I remembered the promises we whispered. The future we believed would never break. Claire looked at me. "I still love you." I answered honestly. "I know. Please let me rebuild our family." She reached toward Noah. "He deserves both parents together." Watching her gently touch Noah's tiny hand hurt more than I expected. For one brief moment, I imagined saying yes. Family dinners, school concerts, birthday parties, the ordinary life we had once dreamed about. Then another memory replaced those dreams. The empty hospital chair. My newborn son opening his eyes. The unanswered phone calls. The dinner she shared with Lucas while I held Noah alone. I slowly picked up the wedding ring. Claire looked at me hopefully. Ethan. My voice stayed calm. I've forgiven you. Her eyes brightened. You have? Yes. She smiled through tears. For the first time since entering the house, hope returned to her face. She had no idea my next words would quietly change everything again. I gently closed my hand around the wedding ring. Claire watched me with trembling hope. I thought forgiveness meant we could start over. I slowly shook my head. It doesn't. Her smile disappeared. Why? Because forgiveness heals my heart. She whispered, and us. Trust is different. She stared at me. I broke it. More than once. I know. I carefully placed the ring back into her hand. You should keep this. I don't want it. It belongs to your past. She began crying again. I wanted it to belong to our future. I took a slow breath. Our future ended the day. Repeated choices became more important than our family. She lowered her head. I'll regret that forever. I believe you. She looked toward Noah. Can I say goodbye? I nodded. For today. She walked over and knelt beside him. Noah hugged his stuffed elephant while smiling at her. Claire gently kissed his forehead. I love you more than you'll ever know. He giggled without understanding. She smiled through tears. I hope one day you forgive me too. I quietly looked away, giving her a private moment. After several minutes, she stood and wiped her eyes. I won't bother you again. I walked her to the front door. Before leaving, she looked back one final time. Thank you for letting me see him. He deserves to know kindness even now. She nodded slowly. I hope you find happiness. I answered with complete honesty. I'm already finding it. She accepted those words without argument. Then she stepped outside and closed the door behind her. I locked it gently before returning to the living room. Noah laughed as he held his stuffed elephant high above his head. I lifted him into my arms. My heart still carried old scars, but it no longer carried false hope. At last, I understood the hardest truth of all. Some people return too late, not because the door is locked, but because life has already moved forward without them. 1 year changed everything. The little boy who once fit inside my arms now ran across the living room with endless energy. Dad. Noah laughed as he chased a bright red toy airplane across the floor. I caught him before he reached the hallway. Slow down, Captain. He wrapped both arms around my neck. Again, I smiled. After breakfast, he nodded seriously. Okay. Life no longer revolved around heartbreak. It revolved around school applications, weekend playground visits, bedtime stories, pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. Every ordinary moment felt extraordinary. My architecture firm had grown beyond anything I once imagined. Instead of designing luxury towers, I focused on affordable family housing throughout Boston. Richard visited one afternoon carrying blueprints. He looked around the office. You've built something remarkable. I've had good people beside me. He smiled proudly. You finally understand success. What do you mean? It isn't measured by buildings. I looked at the family photographs on my desk. I know. It's measured by the people waiting for you when you go home. I nodded. I couldn't agree more. Later that evening, I picked Noah up from my parents' house. Olivia knelt beside him. Did Grandma spoil you today? Noah grinned. Ice cream. I raised an eyebrow. Before dinner? Olivia laughed. Only one scoop. Richard shrugged. I voted against it. No, you didn't, Olivia answered. He laughed. I tried. Watching them together filled me with quiet gratitude. Noah wasn't growing up surrounded by arguments. He was growing up surrounded by patience, kindness, stability. As we walked toward my car, Noah reached for my hand. Then he pointed across the parking lot. Grace. Grace smiled as she walked toward us carrying several folders from the office. They're my favorite boys. Noah ran into her arms without hesitation. She laughed and hugged him tightly. I missed you too. I watched them together. Some people entered our lives loudly. Others quietly became part of our home before we even noticed. Grace had never asked for recognition. She had simply stayed through every difficult season. Without realizing it, She had become part of our family long before either of us ever said the words aloud. A few weeks later, Grace and I met at Boston Harbor after work. The evening sun reflected across the water while Noah chased hungry seagulls along the walkway. His laughter echoed through the cool breeze. Grace smiled. "He has your determination. I hope he has your patience." She laughed softly. "I'm not that patient. You stayed when leaving would have been easier." She looked toward Noah. "He made it easy." "So did you." She turned back to me. "What brought this on?" I took a slow breath. "I've been thinking. That's usually dangerous." I smiled. "Probably." She waited quietly. "I never thanked you." "You never had to." "I do." She folded her arms. "For what?" "For answering late-night calls. You would have done the same. For checking on Noah when I forgot to eat. You were exhausted. For reminding me I was still a good father when I couldn't believe it myself." She looked down. "I only told you the truth." I shook my head. "You helped me become the father my son deserved." Tears quietly filled her eyes. "I never expected you to say that. I should have said it sooner." Noah ran toward us holding a tiny seashell. "Dad, look." I knelt beside him. "That's beautiful." He handed it to Grace. "For you." She accepted it carefully. "Thank you. It's lucky." She smiled. "I'll treasure it." He laughed and ran back toward the water. Grace watched him disappear. "He's growing so fast." "He is. You've done an amazing job." "I didn't do it alone." She looked surprised. "I mean that." The breeze carried the sound of distant boats across the harbor. For several quiet moments, neither of us spoke. We simply watched Noah laughing beneath the golden sky. Then I turned toward Grace. "I need to ask you something." She looked at me with calm curiosity. "What is it?" I felt nervous in a way I hadn't experienced for years. Not because I feared rejection, because this time my heart wasn't searching for someone to rescue it. It was hoping to share the peaceful life we had already built together. I looked into Grace's eyes and smiled. "I've spent a long time thinking about the future." She listened quietly. "I thought my life had ended the day Claire left." Her expression softened. "I remember. I was wrong. You found your way. I found something better." She waited patiently. "I found peace." A gentle breeze lifted Noah's laughter across the harbor. I pointed toward him. "He already trusts you." Grace smiled. "I love that little boy." "I know. I never tried replacing anyone." "I know. I only wanted him to feel safe." "He does." I took one slow breath. "I don't need someone to repair my past." She nodded. "You already healed." "Mostly." I stepped closer. "I want someone to share the future we've already been living." Tears filled her eyes. "Grace." "Yes." "Would you like to build a future with Noah and me?" She covered her mouth. "Oh, you don't have to answer because you feel sorry for us." "I never have." "You don't have to become anyone's replacement." "I wouldn't." "You only have to be yourself." A tear rolled down her cheek. "I've loved this family for a long time." My heart became lighter. "I was hoping you'd say that." She reached for Noah. He happily grabbed her hand. Then she reached for mine. Her fingers gently intertwined with mine. She smiled through happy tears. "My answer is yes." Noah looked up at both of us. "We family." Grace laughed softly. "Yes." I knelt beside him. "The three of us." He hugged us both at once. "I happy." I closed my eyes for a moment, holding the people who had quietly become my greatest blessing. As the sun disappeared beyond Boston Harbor, I realized something I would carry for the rest of my life. The greatest gift was never saving the marriage I had lost. It was becoming the father my son deserved. It was learning that love never asks someone to abandon the people who need them most. And it was finding a woman who never made either of us wonder whether we were worth staying for. At last, I was home,